Good evening, everyone. Good to have you all here for Family Matters tonight. And tonight we're talking about a matter of the heart. We're going to be talking to John Marsich and David and Jenny Luxmoore tonight about their experiences with matters of the heart. John and David have both had heart surgeries. With heart disease a major player in our society as a whole, many families suddenly find themselves thrust into chaos when a family member, and usually a husband or a father, is racing to hospital in an ambulance. And usually we don't see it coming. John, David and Jenny are going to share their experiences of what they went through, symptoms, treatment, post-op procedures. And we're going to ask what they wish they had done if they knew what they knew then, what they know now when they knew it. No, hang on. Let's try that again, eh? We're going to ask what they wish they had done if they knew then what they know now. So those little words that really get you. As we discuss the physical heart, we're also going to come away with a greater appreciation about looking after our own spiritual hearts in the sight of God. So welcome tonight, David and Jenny and John. Good to have you here with us.
Thank you.
Okay. We're going to depart a little bit from our usual start, and I'm going to ask David, would you mind opening with a prayer, David, please?
Yeah, sure. Gracious, eternal, heavenly Father, we come before you through the name of your beloved Son now as we come together on this platform to discuss, as it were, matters of the heart, both physical and spiritual. We do indeed know, Father, that it is the pump that pumps blood around the body to keep us alive, as it were. But we also know, Father, that you look upon the heart for good or for evil. And we do pray, Father, that you will look into our hearts, and we pray that you will see the good in there. And if there be any evil, that we will replace it with the good. And so, Father, we do ask you then to be with us as we learn together about the heart, about what we can do if we have an unhealthy heart or a damaged heart. And we do pray, Father, that you will indeed be with us and bless our discussions this night. We ask it in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. I thought we'd just take a couple of quick Bible verses as a quick reading tonight. First one is from Hebrews chapter 4, and it comes from verse 12. And I think David might refer to this a little bit later. For the word of God is alive and active, sharper than any double-edged sword that penetrates to the dividing of soul, spirit, joints, and marrow. It judges the thoughts and attitudes of the heart. And the other one I wanted to read was Ezekiel 36, verse 26. And I'm reading this from the New Living Translation because I thought it was quite good. And I will give you a new heart, and I will put a new spirit in you, and I will take out your stony, stubborn heart and give you a tender, responsive heart. So I thought that were a couple of really appropriate heart verses that we can sort of keep in mind as we have a discussion tonight. So what I wanted to ask first was what were the first signs of problems for well, let's start with you, John. What were your first signs of problems?
The first sign I had that anything was wrong was I got a pain in my back, about the sort of middle to upper back, and I had a pain there, and it wouldn't go away. So I went to the doctor, and he said, he examined me and the way GPs do, listened to my heart and everything, and said, there's nothing wrong with you. You're just getting old. You forget about it. So it unfortunately, the pain stayed, or fortunately, and I went back to him and said, you better book me into a physio or something, because it's still very sore.
So you had no
Uh,
chest pain? It was only back pain?
No chest pain at all, just this pain in my back, middle of my back. And the sort of thing you get when you've got indigestion, I guess. But I went back to him and he said, well, I'll get you to go for a resting and exercise ECG, and then you'll know there's nothing wrong with you.
Yep. Good.
And what happened was I went for the ECG, and I'd been on the treadmill for about 30 seconds to a minute, and the cardiologist said, I want you to stop and get your clothes back on. And he said, and now he says, I want you to book yourself into hospital now, because I was saying, well, I better see my GP. And he says, no, now. So that was that. I was off to hospital.
Wow. And just with a bit of back pain. What about you, David?
Yeah, well, compared to that story, I feel like a bit of a fraud actually. I didn't have anything quite as dramatic. I did have a sensation in my throat and in my upper chest for about a couple of weeks, particularly when I went walking or was sort of did any extended exercise. And I actually thought it was sort of indigestion or reflux or something like that. But it didn't go away, and I remember going to bed one Sunday night, and I could feel something not quite right in my chest. And anyway, I woke up in the morning, and that pain, or that sort of, wasn't a pain, it was just a funny sensation in my chest. Had no pain through this the whole way. And so anyway, I said to Jen, I said, oh, look, I think I should get this sorted out. So I rang the doctor, got an appointment, I think about 10:30. She, as with John, as GPs do, I got the once over and stuff like that. And she put me on an ECG machine at the surgery and said, oh, that didn't look too bad. It was okay, but I want to do some further tests. Anyway, she sent me for a blood test, and I managed to get into the place almost immediately. And that late afternoon, I got a call from the doctor when they got the blood test result back saying, pack yourself a bag, get yourself into hospital as quickly as you can, and we think you've had a heart attack. And here's me standing up thinking, hang on a minute, I'm not lying on the floor, or I'm not no pain. But anyway, what the blood test was showing, that there was an elevated level of troponin, which is a blood enzyme in your. I think everybody has some troponin in their bloodstream, and it's normally on a scale of 1 to 10. Mine was showing 1100, so which is quite elevated. So anyway, he told me to call an ambulance, but then after talking to Jen about it, Jen said, no, I'll drive you in, because we couldn't rely on the ambulances even turning up. So yeah, so I ended up there, and they did another blood test which confirmed that the troponin levels were still quite high. So therefore they were suspecting that at that stage I'd had a heart attack, or at very least a heart event of some sort anyway. Of course, I was itching to go home because I was feeling absolutely fine, and they wouldn't let me go home. So I ended up having to stay in hospital for what I think was 4 days, which included having a couple of stents put in. My main artery, the coronary artery, was 95% blocked, and I had another artery 90% blocked. So that was the cause of and both of the arteries were at the top of the heart. So that was the cause of the pain in the chest. And it wasn't pain, as I say, the sensation in there. Yeah.
Did you notice anything?
Yeah. So that was my story.
Jenny and David, before he
Experience what he did
before he went to hospital.
Yep. Oh, so before we went to hospital, yes, we would go out walking, and I was saying to him, "You're puffing," and he's saying, "No, I'm not puffing." So he didn't actually ever admit to me he had any problems whatsoever until the next morning, you know, when he said, I think I might make an appointment for the doctor. Yeah, so just had to get him into the hospital, really. I think when he got the doctor's call, he was quite shocked that the doctor should say you go straight to hospital. And he just sort of stood there, and I was saying, pick a bag, put this in your bag, I'll do this, I'll do that. No, you're not driving, you might have a heart attack on the way. So, yeah.
Yeah.
So how long ago was this for each of you?
David?
How long ago was your heart
mine
event,
was,
John?
yeah, actually went back and had a look this afternoon. It was the 22nd of March, 21.
Okay, so yours was a bit more recent, David.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And John, how long ago was yours?
Mine was in the year 2000. Obviously, I celebrated too much. But the turn of but no, because when I after the cardiologist said book yourself in the hospital now, I booked myself into Mercy Hospital, and I went off there. I wasn't caring what it cost. I just wanted to stay alive, seeing it sounded bad. But they gave me an angiogram, which they follow all your blood around the body, and they stopped that and said, we can't actually work out why you're alive because there's no blood getting to your heart.
Wow.
All the arteries are blocked. So that didn't sound good. They said, we can't do the operation till next Tuesday. And I said, well, I can go home. And they said, no, you can't, because a day out of here and you could be dead. So I thought, well, probably not advisable. And then they gave me a quintuple bypass, which is unusual. That's 5 grafts. So yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And apparently during the 4-hour operation, my heart actually stopped beating, and I was dead for a short while. But obviously they managed to revive me, and I knew nothing about it because I just came to in the recovery room and listened to the doctors and nurses talking because they didn't realise I was awake.
Oh, okay.
So when the nurse said to the doctor, what happened to that bleeder that you had last week? Did he stop? And the doctor said, they all stop sometime, which I thought was very encouraging.
Wow. So you were in your 50s at this stage, John?
I was 52.
52.
Wasn't I? Yeah, 52.
Wow.
And
Okay.
didn't know there was anything wrong with me. They did say that when they did various tests and things that I had a heart attack, but I got no idea when that was or what it
Okay,
was.
so you had no idea that you had any heart issues before this point of time?
No,
No.
it's not as
And
if it
apart
ran.
from that, you were quite, as far as you were concerned, you were quite healthy and everything seemed quite normal?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Well, as normal as I can get.
So
Yeah.
looking back, would you say that there was anything that you could pinpoint to say that something was wrong, wasn't right?
No, not really.
No.
No.
Okay.
And not you neither, David.
Sorry?
No. Well, I know during my working life, I had access to regular checkups and stuff, and I retired at 62. So, and the last 10 years of my working life, the IRD would send me off to get checked up, and I had no other than high cholesterol, high cholesterol. Over sort of 6.5, which they reckon it should be under 5. Other than that, no, everything checked out fine. So, I did ECG tests, like John has just explained before, and all that kind of thing, and stuff. Yeah, no, I had So there was no, and I know in my family history there is no, as far as I know, there is no sort of history of heart disease either. So therefore I felt as though, well, you know, quite well, the risk factors were low in terms
Felt
of
safe.
heart disease. Yeah, but it just goes to show you. Yeah. But I mean, you know, I just like when I was in hospital, I wanted to go home as well because, as I said, I was feeling absolutely fine. And I thought, well, hospitals are for sick people. I don't feel sick, so what am I doing here, kind of thing. But I was told quite bluntly by a rather gruff nurse that if you leave here, you could fall over in your way out, and that will be it. Stay here. And I thought, okay then. So,
Yeah, I didn't feel ill at all until after the operation. Then I felt really, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Amazing how operations do that to you. You'd almost think they were bad for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how long were both of you in hospital for your procedures?
Did you say 4 days, David?
Yeah, I was there. I went in on a Monday night and I was out by Saturday, so about 4 or 5 days. Yeah.
Right, I was in there a fortnight.
Okay.
Mm,
So was yours open heart surgery, John?
yes, and they have some fancy way of lifting the heart from the body and keeping it pumping while they're working on it.
Okay.
Wow.
But that's when it stopped. So yeah. But as I say, I know nothing about it except the surgeon told me afterwards.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm.
So how did so let's just, you know, stopping at this point here. You're both in hospital. You're both sort of being rushed in, like you know, no one knew anything that was going to happen. You're just told straight away, you need to get into hospital. Don't, you know, go straight to jail. Do not pass go. Do not collect 200 sort of thing.
Yeah.
And so you're straight there. How did your families cope?
Well, my family were my wife coped admirably at the time, and everything ran smoothly. Yeah, they were obviously shocked about it, just as I was. But nothing. I mean, I had good support from work and so on. I was lucky.
That's good.
Mm.
Yeah.
And I had medical insurance, so that was sort of a great help.
Mm.
Cool. David and Jenny, was there, you know, any response from your family?
Yes, they were shocked because David had always been well, so they weren't expecting anything to happen to him. So I guess when they got my text from hospital saying Dad's in hospital in ED, and they think he might have had a heart attack, it was a bit of a, you know, surprise to them. And I guess they suddenly realised that, you know, parents are getting older and they might not always be there. You just expect everyone to be there, don't you?
Mm.
For Sarah, she was in Canada and wouldn't be able to come home because of COVID.
Yeah, so that must be
She was
difficult.
stuck over, you know, whatever happened, she would have been stuck over there, you know.
Mm.
Yeah.
So we didn't tell her initially.
No, we never told. Well, we never told her when he first went in because it was like 9:15 at night, and that's the middle of her night. And then we would have gone to bed, and she would have just worried her whole day till we got up again. So it didn't seem a lot of
Yeah.
point. And you know, we really, the doctors couldn't quite decide whether David had had a heart attack or not. They were all, one would come and say he had, and the next one would come and say he hadn't, and so it didn't seem incredibly serious, did it?
Well, I mean, I was, you know, I mean, within an hour, I mean, I was walking around the ward and you know, going to the toilet and and just sort of cruising around, and they, well, you know, this guy's not acting like he's had a heart attack, so
So it was quite different to John.
It's quite different to John, yeah.
Yeah.
But it just goes to show, as I say, when I had my CT scan, it did show that I had a 95% block, which is pretty dangerous.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Just
So
a
what
bit.
was the recovery time?
Sorry?
What was the recovery time for you both? I assume with open heart surgery, John, yours would have taken quite a bit longer.
Yeah, it took, I think I had another 6 weeks off work following the fortnight in hospital.
Right.
And I went back sort of on a take it easy basis for a week or two. But yeah, no, I mean, the thing about the operation, which was not good, because next morning when you're awake, they wouldn't give you breakfast until you walked down the corridor. Now you had a person supporting you both sides, and you were linked up to about 10 different monitors and machines. But you still had to actually get up and walk if you wanted breakfast, which I did. So I staggered that way, and we had to several times a day had to sort of do that trip down the corridor, which was not fun. But amazingly how quick the human body recovers, because within a couple of weeks, you know, I was fine. Yeah, everything was working well, and just keep taking the pills.
Right. Yeah.
What about you, David?
I think with mine, I know that Jenny would probably say something. I've sort of pushed my recovery, but as I say, I got out of the hospital on the Saturday, and woke up Sunday morning feeling right as rain, and fine. But anyway, I was told by the hospital just for the next 5 or 6 days, just to, you know, just have a walk by day 2, and then increase the length of the walk from 10 minutes to 20 minutes to 30 minutes over 4 or 5 days. We were having a baby shower at home here for Sophie, because Emmaus was not that far away, and the lawns needed mowing on the Saturday morning, so I got out there with a lawnmower and mowed. It takes about an hour and 10 minutes to mow our lawns. And I felt fine while I was mowing the lawns, but then when I put the lawnmower away and came back inside, I was crook. So I knew that I'd overdone it. I had a bit of chest pain, and it's where that, you know, because the stents, when they go in, you know, they have to settle down. And anyway, I think the stents were a bit angry at me, I think, because they were letting me know that I shouldn't have been mowing the lawn. So yeah, and I spent the rest of the day lying on the bed while the baby shower was going on here.
Well,
I guess a week later from that, I was fine. Jenny and I went up to Bay of Islands. It was a pre-arranged trip anyway, and we didn't do much up there other than do a bit of walking. Well, I think that was good. You know, we just it was a sort of a change of diet experience as well, because we were sort of cooking up different types of, well, you know, heart foundation recipes and that kind of stuff, which they recommend. You know, they give you all the information about what your diet should be. So anyway, it was a good time to start that when we're up north there, and we just took it quietly for the whole week, really.
So
Yeah,
do they encourage you to carry on with that diet?
We carry on with some of it. We've changed it a bit. I mean, we certainly eat a lot more. We don't eat as much red meat as what we used to, and we sort of watch what our intake of sugar and salt and that kind of thing. But I mean, all the hospital really tell you is the things not to eat. They don't really go into what you should eat, but they all bang on about exercise, you know. So therefore, no salt, no sugar, and plenty of exercise seems to be the things that are ringing in my ears all the time about it. So, but although we started eating a lot more fish in our diet,
Yep.
and I think
And salads.
yeah, and I think smaller meals. I mean, I must admit I probably eat just as much during the day, but in smaller portions and probably a bit more often. Yeah.
What about you, John?
Yeah, much the same from the point of view of diet. They, interesting enough, when you're in hospital, they feed you all sorts of stuff you're not meant to have.
No, that's amazing, eh?
It is.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Do you want fatty pork or do you want, fatty mutton? What? Yeah. Anyway, so the diet was something. Of course, immediately after you've had the operation, you're very conscious of it and you're watching everything like a hawk. But then as time goes on, you sort of, but my diet definitely changed. I mean, far less fat for a start. Exercise was a major. I started walking and I hadn't walked anywhere near that sort of distance before. I do 5Ks every day without or more without fail. And I've never really had much of a problem. I did have a slight problem about 6 or 8 years ago, and that was because one of the grafts had become loose. But when I went to hospital and they fished around inside me, they said it's not a very important one anyway, so we won't worry about it. So that didn't happen.
Yeah.
But I do watch, I watch what I eat far more than I used to.
Yes, it's interesting. I know, because I've got a blood pressure machine, and I know I had the sense that my blood pressure. Well, this is a wee while ago, beginning of this year, I think. And anyway, I decided to go and see the doctor and he just said to me, "Oh, I think your machine is not calibrated correctly, so don't worry about it." So anyway. He said, "Oh, if you bring it in," so I took it in. And of course, he's got the manual one. He's also got another one like the one I've got. I've got what they call an Omron one. So he said, "Look, if you bring your machine in, and we'll have a blood pressure machine party." So anyway, but yeah, so therefore we did find out that mine was actually calibrated a bit high, which so now on the odd time I check it. If it looks high, then I know that okay, then I can take a certain amount off it, which means it's actually a bit more normal than what the machine's actually saying it is. So I mean, as John says, I think you become more aware of changes in your health. I think if you get a palpitation or something, you think, well, now what's that about? And of course, about 10 minutes later, it's gone, so you don't worry about it. But I mean, over time, those kinds of things actually stop happening anyway. I think the first 6 months, I was getting palpitations and stuff like that, but it's very, very seldom. And I get one, and in fact, I can't even recall the last time I had one now. So. But you do become more aware, for certain, about any changes in your health as a result.
Sure.
Are there any recommendations that you would both say for people to look after heart health? To be perhaps preventative measures, or to look out for anything that might be perhaps on the not going so well side of things?
Well, from my point of view, the big thing is to make sure you get exercise, and if you find that you are getting breathless at all, particularly if you go and walk on a cold morning, it's more noticeable then in the cold,
Right.
and you would feel that. But I think that the big thing is exercise and have a good diet. I mean, you know, don't go eating all the rubbish I was eating all the time. I was, you know, the old cream cakes and things were fantastic, but you can do that occasionally, but then you don't build up your cholesterol the same way if you're moderate with things.
Mm, mm.
And plenty of vegetables.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would just say that, you know, if you notice any changes in your health, yeah, I mean, particularly over a few days, and it starts to, you start to agonise about it, then, you know, you need to get it checked out. The thing is, I mean, I'm not good at letting Jen know that I'm not feeling well. Mainly because I probably don't want to worry her, but then I think, well, it'll be all right tomorrow, kind of thing. But I'll be better tomorrow. And 9 times out of 10, you are. But the thing is, though, you do need, particularly if you're a man, you need to know that you know, you need to communicate, make sure that you go to the doctor if you need to go. I mean, I've got a very good doctor, so I've got no fear of, you know, I know well, in fact, I've got 2 doctors really in the same practice, and they've always done the right thing by me, I believe. So I've got no fear of them, of going to see them in that way. But you just need, if things are not right and you know they're not right, then you need to get it checked out. And you know, 9 times out of 10, it'll be nothing. But just on the odd occasion, it might be something that needs attention straight away.
Yeah.
Interesting that after you've had the operation, that there are different things. You can feel your heart beating more or whatever it might be. And that can be worrying at first. Luckily, my wife was quite calm about it and said, stop panicking. But I'm the opposite to David. I tend to go to the doctor as soon as anything's wrong. And with that, there were several occasions after the operation when I thought I was having another heart attack. And of course, it was really more a worry about nothing. Although my doctor, as it happened, that particular GP had a triple bypass just about 2 years after I'd had mine, and he used to ring me up and say, did you find that after the operation you could feel your heart beating a lot more than you could before? And I was able to sort of reassure him that that was the case, and his wife in the background was telling me to charge the doctor for a consultation. But I didn't. Although he could have afforded it for what I'd paid him.
Yeah. No, but I can concur with that. You're a lot more aware of your heartbeat. I know when I wake up in the morning, probably the first thing I become aware of is of my heart beating. So it's good. It's always a good start to the day. You know that
breathing, heart's beating.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, obviously, that was the way it always was before. But you just, I don't know. It must be your brain must be wired to just to be aware that it's you know that you're a lot more aware of it. That's all. Yeah.
Yeah, it's awareness is a big thing. Is being you know you're immediately become aware of anything to do with not just your heart but health in general, I think. And that's very important to be. You sort of, until then, I'd gone through life thinking, yeah, well, she'll be right. And then all of a sudden this happened, and whilst I was quite confident in hospital, I talked to David about this too. He felt the same. He never felt he wasn't going to pull through. I never felt that I was going to die. The chances were, of course, that it wasn't that, you know, I wouldn't have put money on it if I was someone else. But I felt quite calm about it, and it's just a matter that one thing about it is it really turns you to prayer. Absolutely. You pray a lot about it.
Yeah, which is
You should
probably a good moment to think about spiritual heart health. You got some thoughts to share on that perspective?
Yes, well, it's interesting that in the Bible, the word that's translated heart is usually referring to sort of the moral and the sometimes the mortality, but more the moral side of things, and your mind as against the actual physical organ. Although, interesting enough, the same original words are used for either in the Hebrew and the Greek. You find that, for instance, in the Old Testament, that the same word is used for, say, the heart is deceitfully wicked or whatever, and the one where I forget who it was who shot someone through the heart. It said the arrow pierced his armor and came out through his heart. And the same word is used for heart. So it's interesting.
Yeah, I think what John said about prayer, I mean, it's certainly an event like that certainly improves your prayer life big time. You become much more in touch with, you know, with God. But I learned that also that it was according to His will whether or not I pulled through. The cardiac people and the doctors and all that, you know, had told me quite early on in the piece that I needed a couple of stents and everything would be fine. So that was reassuring. But in the end, I mean, there were risks. I mean, you have to sign a paper before you go into surgery to say that if something goes wrong, well, you know, you still, you know, that you agreed to have this procedure done. So you know that there is an element of risk. So therefore, you ask the Father to look after you. But I think for me, one of the Bible verses which resonated with me, and it was and the young fellow wasn't even born at this stage, was but Emmaus has come to mind since, because as you all know, I've got a little grandson named Emmaus, and of course it comes from that passage in the Bible where the disciples met Jesus on the road to Emmaus, and I know that we read there how the disciples said, "Did our hearts not burn when we talked with Jesus?" So therefore, and we know that Jesus was teaching them from the Word of God and touching their hearts with it. And their response was it burned in their hearts. And I found, you know, and at that particular point, I didn't even know I was going to have a grandson called Emmaus. You know, it was before Emmaus. But I found that particular verse to be quite encouraging. And of course, the other one that was encouraging was that Legion, how compassionate Jesus was. Jesus' heart, I believe, touched Legion's heart. And healed him, you know, and you know, because when we think about it, where does compassion come from? Well, compassion comes from the heart, and we know that, you know, that Jesus' compassion is exceedingly great. So yeah, so those kinds of things which, I don't know, you just feel a lot more in touch with it when you're in a crisis sort of situation like that.
I think also the as you've described, the change in diet and exercise is also probably a crucial thing when it comes to thinking about the natural heart as well. And that, you know, if we feed our hearts the right thing, both physically and spiritually. And as we're physically exercising, we're spiritually exercising as well. We keep our spiritual hearts alive and awake as well. Which, I thought that was quite an interesting parallel that struck a chord with me anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. The thing is that, there is a lot of similarities between the physical heart and the spiritual heart. Because in terms of the physical health, the heart is the centre of your being. If your heart stops beating, well, that's it. You're not alive anymore. And I believe that that if you've got an evil heart or a closed heart to God, well, it really amounts to the same thing.
Yes.
Yeah. So
I'm just looking at a verse in Proverbs that we were talking about, and it says, above all, guard your heart, for everything flows from it. Now, that's so in the physical sense and the mental sense. So you need to make sure that you're, as you say, you're putting the right things in there, because everything flows out again, flows from it.
Yeah. So, assuming we know someone who's going through heart issues like this, who's in whatever stage, whether they're having the slight breathing problems, the sore back, whether it's like full on chest pain, or they're partway through and they're in the hospital or recovering, what are the best ways to support those people?
Well, I think one of the ways that both David and I, for instance, could support them is just talking about what happened to us, and talking about the operation, and talking about the fact that we needed to change our exercise regimes, our diet, and so on. And I think if you're talking to someone who's got first-hand experience of it, it's quite valuable. That's
I know one of the things which I found very, very helpful to me, Brother Jeff Richards, who you all know is a GP, a doctor. He found out that I was in hospital and awaiting, surgery, as it were, and he sent me an email which was very calming and very reassuring about the procedure. And of course, he actually mentioned that 20, 30 years ago, stent procedures were sort of cutting edge, sort of technology, whereas today it's commonplace. And on the day that I went for mine into North Shore Hospital, I went over in an ambulance from the Waitakere Hospital to North Shore. They did 11 stent surgeries that day. So I know that when I got there in the morning, I was meant to be third. I ended up being eighth because one, the machine broke down, but then they had a couple of urgent cases, and I think one of them was a car accident where some guy had a heart attack while he had a car accident. So yeah, so I mean, as I say, stent surgery now is really it's commonplace, and even to the extent, I mean, I was one of the last on that Friday to have mine, and it was almost like happy hour in the surgical room, because the two guys who were in there, and there was a nurse there as well, they started talking about what they were going to be doing at the weekend. They asked me what I was going to be doing at the weekend, and I said, well, if this goes all okay, then I'll be back to normal anyway. But they had rock music playing in the background. He was cracking jokes. He was, and yeah, the whole procedure for me only lasted about, I think, 15 minutes.
You went under.
No. Well, the thing is, I mean, I wasn't under. What they do is that they just give you a sedative to quieten you down, and then they put a shunt in your arm that goes, and they put a dye up through your arm and into your heart. So I mean, I was awake the whole time. And in fact, it was everything was being shown on a great big TV screen, which I was invited to look at, but couldn't bring myself to look at that. So I didn't want to be that nosy. Yeah. But but no. As I say, Jeff Richards' email certainly made a big difference the way I was feeling about it. And then later on, Neil Todd gave me a book, which is that there, Can You Die of a Broken Heart? And it's a very, very good book. It's written by she's a cardiologist in Australia, but it's a very easy book to read, but and it's quite comical in places. She's quite sort of humorous about it, but she is, but she knows what she's talking about the heart as well, and she gives you a lot of very good information, a lot of very good advice about how to look after your heart. So I'm not sure whether the book is available or not, but it's Can You Die of a Broken Heart by Dr. Nikki Stemp, and she's a heart surgeon from Australia.
Okay. We'll put that on the resources when we send out our next email too. So what did you find, Jenny? Was there any good support for you, or would you have liked more support in some way while David was in hospital?
I didn't feel like I needed any support really. No, everything was fine.
Everything was fine. Yeah.
Yep.
Capable, wonderful.
Well, I didn't think really. I just believed he'd be okay. So, and I have a daughter and a son here as well. So if I need anything, they were very ready, willing to come and help, or I could stay with them if I wanted to. So, yeah. It was fine.
That's good.
Yeah, the thing is that that Jenny's always calm. She never. She's always calm in the process. Yeah.
So your first heart issues were when you were 52, John. I've got about 3 weeks to go. What can I do to prevent going down that track? You got any thoughts on that?
Just give me that again. I missed that.
So
he's about to turn 52, he's saying.
I'm about to turn 52. That was your number. What can I do to prevent going down that track?
Well, I think, as I say, exercise and watching your diet is all you can do, really. And far more important, of course, is your spiritual health than your physical. But nonetheless, I think that you're looking after your physical health by diet and exercise is as good as you can do, and one never knows what's around the corner. I've been fine really ever since, apart from one minor episode that I mentioned. And you never know what's coming next, because sometime, another 6 or 7 years ago, I got prostate cancer, and that was operated on for that, and was survived again. The doctor has made the very nice comment that he said, you've had heart and you've had cancer and you're still alive, so we'll find something else for you to die of. Encouraging.
Yeah. The thing is, what I would say, Robert, is that you have a regular checkup. When I say regular, it might be once every 12 months or something like that. But I think you get a round of blood tests done, and the doctor will actually discuss those those with you. The thing is that what the doctors, well, what mine does is very, very good at identifying risk factors in your health, and that's based on your age, your weight, your sort of family history and all that kind of thing. And I think, you know, one of the reasons I think that Jenny is calm through all this, I mean, when something happens like that, she seeks to understand, to get the knowledge about what's going on. And I know while I was in hospital, I'll be getting texts from her all the time, what's happening, because to her, I think knowing what was going on was power, you know, and knowing that, you know, that everything was you know, that could be done, is being done, you know, and I guess sometimes it's the not knowing that actually, you know, the anguish. So therefore, you know, to go back to it, you know, once you get over 50, I think you do need to just be a lot more aware of things, and I think, you know, get that annual checkup done just to make sure that there isn't anything there that's lurking there that has to be got onto.
Yeah.
That's very good.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much, all of you, for joining us tonight. We've really enjoyed our evening, and I hope it's been really beneficial for anyone else who's listening as well. Coming up, our November the 7th program has just changed, and I'll let you know what that is. And we also have December the 5th coming up as well. So I'll let you know what both of those are as soon as I know. If you've got any suggestions of what we can do on Family Matters, or people who can help, or if you'd like to volunteer to be on a Family Matters, we would love to hear from you. We'll talk about that a little bit more in the chat in a moment. And if you want to know anything more about what's going on with Family Matters, just drop me a line, Robert at thankyouthings.com, and I'll put you on the mailing list for our Family Matters emails. You can see past recordings like this one at the Pakuranga Christadelphian website. So if you just Google Pakuranga Christadelphians, you'll find that. And finally, we'll just ask John if you wouldn't mind closing in prayer.
Certainly.
Thank you.
Heavenly Father, we know that we are reliant on you for all things. And when it comes to our own health, it's a very personal thing, but we know that you see us and look after us, and that there isn't anything that we do that isn't watched over by you. It's a very comforting thing to know. And we ask that you will bless those that have taken part in this program and have watched this program, and that you will help them to understand that the Bible does talk about the physical heart, but it talks mainly about our heart being our mind and our moral being and so on. And we all need to pay a lot of attention to that. But of course, over and above everything else, we are so thankful for the cross of Christ, the sacrifice of Jesus, and we thank you for that, and we ask that you will receive our prayer in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Amen.